Hey everyone, welcome to Lesson 7 of the Image Gallery project. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at colors and fonts, or typography, within CSS. When we look at these, we are going to be skimming the surface of these topics because these topics alone could be a course in over an entire year, but we will make sure to point you to the direction of the resources so that you can do deeper dives into your own projects going forward, and the freelancing is really where you can have some fun. So Image Gallery will have a freelance project following, at least for my classroom students. I recommend that everybody do that too, so that you're not just doing a follow-through walkthrough, but you're adding your own flair to it. All right, workflow. Let's make sure you have your GitHub repository open to the Image Gallery, and make sure that your integrated development environment, your IDE, is open. My students should be using AWS Cloud9 through the Academy. If you are using anything else, that is awesome. Happy to have you and to follow along. When you are working in your IDE, try and limit your editor to only to open the files that you are working on. So this is kind of a speaking from experience where I've messed up the most. When I clutter my editor with a lot of different files, I tend to forget which tab I have open, and notice the editor works just like a browser. The tab you have open is where you're working, and it's easy to confuse those. So limit it to just the ones you're working on. That's enough with that address. So let's go back to our GitHub repo. And the repo has a README, remember, and the README hopefully is chock full of a lot of cool resources. We are using W3 Schools already quite a bit. We will hit Mozilla later on in the year. But under additional, we're going to be focusing on two things here. Google Fonts, so open that one up in your tab, and Color Hunt. So they're about halfway through the additional project resources. Google Fonts and Color Hunt. If you don't have the repo itself and you're still with us, just Google those two and they will pop up. And also, let's go back to our friends at W3 Schools and let's scroll down to the tutorial, and they will kick us off as usual. Let's take a look at the tutorial. Head on down to Colors, CSS Colors. All right. Colors we're able to integrate in one of three ways. And in the walkthrough that we just did, the demo for CSS box model, I was using color names, and there's about 140 to use, and you could see them here, but that's not, it's very limiting, and it's not really the traditional way we actually identify colors in our projects. So the next two, if we hit next here, one of the most common ways we access or integrate colors into our projects is with the Rgb value of a property. So two properties could be background color, and then that would be the value would be the Rgb value that would come next, or color, which is the font color, and then again the Rgb value. So Rgb stands for red, green, and blue, as it says on the screen, and the syntax is just this. You type in Rgb first, open parentheses, and then each value can range anywhere from 0 all the way to 255. You will get a little bit more into why that happens in the future when we talk about a binary code and also hexadecimals as well, and we'll get to that next. So Rgb has three different values ranging from 0 to 255. As I slide, this is a cool little thing that we could look at. If I slide everything over to 0, all zeros is black, and all 255s are white, and everything else in between gives us a lot of different shade variation. Let's hit next and go to our next choice, and that is CSS hex colors. And hexadecimal color is specified by a hashtag first, and then 6 values. The first two are the reds, the second two are the greens, the third two are the blues. And again, same idea. You could use the slider here. Okay, so that's how we're going to integrate this. But more importantly, and again, you could go down a huge rabbit hole of colors. We just want to integrate this quickly into our project, but I do want to show you one important tool. Let's head on over to Color Hunt. Remember, we opened this up from our resources in the repo, but you could get to there by colorhunt.co. And Color Hunt is a way of organizing color palettes, and it is a combination of 4 different colors that may work well together in a project or blend well together. And you could search by popular, you could search by palette here if you want just blues, and so on. If I go back to popular, and here's the trick, is you could just click on this, right click or click on it and Control C, copy it into your clipboard and then paste it into your project. And once you find one that you like, you could integrate that into your own project. So that's exactly what I did over here. So let's head back to our CSS file. And at this point, I'm going to ask you to pause the video because in the top comment, I have placed the chosen color palette for our project. So would you please add the hexadecimal values for background, font, secondary, and tertiary. So we've got a background font, our second choice color, and third choice color. Pause video here, type those in, and come on back. All right, welcome back, everybody. Now that we have that open, we have to do a little cleanup here. I'm going to keep the body open, but let's, from this line down, let's just delete everything from our CSS box model demo, and let's put this to use right away. Inside the body, let's get background color going here. I'm going to use the snippet, and I want to just come up and highlight the background color chosen from the palette. And I'm just going to hit Control V here. And don't forget, I've left the syntax notes in there intact so that I don't have to go back and forth between W3 schools to remind myself of what the syntax is. And I also put the color palette up on top in a note so that I'm not going back and forth to color hunt. So just some little things that I've learned along the way, some tricks that we could just stay focused within our workflow. And remember, I need property. So, well, first selector, selector's the body, property is background color, value, and I need that semicolon for the syntax to work properly. I do not need this closing bracket because the body is closed out because I have multiple properties on multiple lines. Line 18 is closing the background out there. Let's add one more into here. Let's go to just color. And I want to bring in, when you identify color, oddly enough, usually property is self-explanatory. This one was not, at least a surprise to me. Color is the font color, not background color. So let's put that in, add our semicolon, and hit Control S to save. Okay, now let's see what, if anything, we've accomplished. Let's open or go back to index, hit the preview, and here we go. All right, so a couple things first. I'm going to slide over my editor over the file folder left-hand column a bit, and I'm going to slide the preview over so that it kind of looks a little like a phone. And that's somewhat intentional because this project, we're going to take a mobile-first approach, meaning we want to make it look as best as we possibly can to a mobile phone. Once that is accomplished, then we will do things or expand things or adjust things in the project so that it also looks good when larger screens are viewed, such as tablets or computer sizes or big screens. So we're going to target mobile approach first, and notice a couple of things have changed. We still have a lot of work to do, but background color has now changed throughout the entire body, and that was intentional. That includes everything, okay? And the fonts have changed. The font color, excuse me, have changed. Now, the font itself may not have changed, and we want to now look at that next. So we're going to take a look at font families next. So back to our repo. And remember that our next resource is going to be Google Fonts, so please open that up. And this is what your page should look like here. Much like color palette, you could spend a lot of time on this, and I expect you to in when you're doing your freelance work. And for my students, freelance will be, you're doing this image gallery walkthrough, the next project will be your own image gallery freelance, where you're making selections on fonts and color backgrounds and so on. You're choosing your own images. And that's kind of how my classes go. Walkthrough, then freelance, walkthrough, and freelance. So in the walkthroughs, I'm asking that you follow along. So what did we choose here? Well, if I just go up to, well, before I get to that, you could go down to trending, look at most popular, just like you did in the palettes. you could search, and we're going to use the search feature here and go to Open Sans, and now that card comes up with that font family. If I click on that font family, here's where we could be a little more efficient. And notice on the right hand side it says select this style. So I'm going to select light 300, regular 4, and bold, let's see, semi-bold 6. And let's do bold 7. So I've selected these. Now, up top here is a little grid that says view your selected families. Let's actually do that. There is Open Sans, light 300, regular 4, semi, and bold. That's everything I selected. Down below now is how do I actually use this on the web. I could either put a link in my head tag of my index.html or import. I've done both. Let's select the import, but notice the import is inside of a style tag. We're going to include that or incorporate that inside of our style file. So don't copy the tag itself, copy everything inside the tag, Control C, and let's head on over to our style.css. Right after our notes, let's type that in, and there is our import. So now, part of the instructions for this project will be the minute that the browser is reading this file, it will know to incorporate all fonts for that font family at this location. Now, we also need to indicate property and value here. Now, let me bring this up just a bit. So what we also want to incorporate here is the font family property. Now I'm going to delete what I just wrote here, because if we go back to our notes on Google Fonts, take a look down below. CSS rules to specify families. There's our font family, there's our colon, and there is the value. So put that in your clipboard, Control C, come on back to your editor. Let's pop that right back into body. Now we have font family. We're instructing to use Open Sans, sans serif, and we want the import will allow us to go get that. So let's hit Control S here, and let's refresh. And notice we have a little different look to our fonts. Okay, so that was it. That's fonts and colors and typography, if you will. So we're going to stop the video here, and in our next section, we're going to start adjusting the size of these fonts, positions, and so on. So just to recap, what we did today was we actually selected a color palette from Color Hunt, and then we also selected a font family from Google Fonts. We incorporated those into the project, and we changed the background color and the font color, the type, and also selected the family. Congratulations, we're starting to style this. We'll see you on the next one, everyone.